Hello and welcome to another episode of Entrepreneur TV. And it's all fun and games in here today because we have a company called Mad Hatter in, and they come all the way from Yeovil. And it's not just a joke shop. My goodness, does this store have it all? But we're going to be discussing that a lot more. So let's meet you. David, hello. Thank you very much for popping in. That's really, really kind of you for coming all this way.
Yes, hell of a journey.
I know, it's a bit, isn't it? But Mad Hatter, how did it start for you?
It started for me around sort of September 21. I basically got fed up of working for the retail life and wanted to take over my own business. Did a couple of visits to the shop, loved the products, loved the idea, and it all went from there.
I mean, in 2021, that was a pretty brave decision because, the times then during COVID and everything else, it wasn't easy. So that was a pretty brave decision on your part.
Yeah, it was certainly brave. I mean, we just kind of at the tail end of COVID, so it gave me a chance, I sort of thought, to settle in, learn the store, learn the products, learn the company, and then build it.
I mean, you said you worked in retail before. Give us a flavour of what you actually did in retail before.
It was retail management. So I worked for, over the last maybe 20, 30 years, 4 or 5 of the sort of big national companies as a assistant store manager kind of thing, just changed around that.
Do you think that sort of management side of it really sort of helped you with your own business, or have you found it's like, it was okay, but this is a completely different animal?
I think some parts helped, where you learn some of the sort of skills, people management, some of the laws, it helped. But yeah, it's certainly a much different animal to, working for some of the large retailers.
I mean, you have this most amazing store. It is quite something else. And it's got a 350-year-old building, I understand, and it's reputed to be haunted. Go on, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's a Victorian building. When I took it over, I was told that, there's ghosts and all that in it. I'm not a fan believer and I don't really believe in it, but there are certain things that you can't explain that'll happen overnight or you'll see on the CCTV. I haven't got answers for what happens. We've had some photos of customers that have taken in the horror shop, and there'll be a blur in the corner, but the whole picture's not blurred. So there are some explained things and some weird things going on and noises.
But it's actually a beautiful building. So, I'm sure whatever's there likes to be there, but they're not doing your tax returns, not being of use, are they, David?
No, they're definitely not helping.
What sort of made you want to expand? Because obviously, people just see a stereotypical like joke shop, and that's got like the chewing gum that you pull out and it, snaps your fingers and things like that. But this is on another level. What sort of made you change from going that and going a little bit further with all the other stuff that you do?
I mean, so when I took over it, it was known as the Mad Hatter's Joke Shop. When I took it over, we just call it now the Mad Hatter. So although we do sell jokes, we are not a joke shop. We're just a shop that happens to sell jokes. We do the core stuff, so costumes and all the bits. Since then, we've expanded into toys, hen and stag night stuff. The range has grown to try and keep up with some of the times.
You also do all the horror props and theatrical stuff. I mean, that must be really interesting to get into that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Halloween probably in the UK is growing every year. We're not quite where the Americans are with it, but it's certainly growing every year. And for me, if we didn't have Halloween, there's no way the shop would exist. Halloween certainly helps keep us afloat. So, yeah, we're really big for Halloween in the props, the costumes, all the accessories, animated props and everything.
Have you found like people's demands for things have got like a little bit more bigger than what they used to be? You said Halloween's got bigger. Now I can see that you can't even walk down a street without seeing so much stuff outside people's houses.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, certainly the larger sort of 8, 10-foot animated props are becoming a lot more popular. But just people wanting to decorate houses. So like Christmas they do, people are now starting to look for just things that they can do for the outside and the inside of the house to keep it decorated as well.
So, what are, would you say, some of your most iconic products? I mean, you just mentioned Halloween there, but I would presume it'll be your stag and your hen do's and things as well.
Um, I mean, the most iconic is, kind of hats. We do a lot of hats, and particularly cowboy hats are very popular because theme parties, it's very easy to sort of, you can almost wear sometimes your own clothing and just put a cowboy hat
Yeah.
and bandana on. So they're really popular. You mentioned hen and stag. I mean, we do glow sticks that are shaped like willies. I think probably every hen night has them. We sell thousands and thousands a year of them.
It's just finding those products that people want and keep wanting to pick up, isn't it?
Well, that's the hard thing. It's although I like it, it doesn't mean the public's going to like it. And I've bought things in the past that I thought were going to be great sellers that are complete flops. And it's trying to find something that I think's good, but also obviously is going to sell.
I mean, I read that you've got your inventory boasts over 3,500 items. That's mind blowing.
Yeah, we hold around 3,500 different lines. So stock wise, we've probably got in the region of 150,000 items in the store at any one time. Yeah, it's pretty much we try and cater. If you want to go on a party or a night out, if it's 80s, you can go costumes, accessories. If it's 1920s, we've got everything. So whether you want a full costume and some accessories, or whether you just want to do a few accessories to expand your collection, we cater for everything.
How do you stay ahead of those trends? Because there are things that come and go, but people don't quite grasp, do they, that when there's a trend, that it's hard to get those items as quickly as they would like.
Yeah, that's the tough thing because as new programs and series come out, obviously the suppliers that get them made wait to see if it's going to be a success before they do it. So if it is a success, they will then do it, but it can take then 3 to 6 months for the products to be ready to deliver to stores. So as much as we'd like to have it at the time, it's very, very much impossible. So there's always a delay in getting the products.
You also have a haunted house and horror section. Just explain that for people who've not been to your shop.
Yeah, so as part of the shop, we've got pretty much a 2-floor flat, which we only open in September and October, which is basically decorated for Halloween. We change the theme and we change it around each year. But, in there's things from basic table decorations, house decorations, indoor, outdoor, to the 8-foot animatronic props that you can see. And the costumes we also have, we now have a big kind of shop downstairs that we transform, so everything's all in sort of one place. So if you need something for Halloween, you can quite easily shop it.
Yeah, because sometimes I've been in these stores myself, and it's like you're trying to find something, but everything's, I don't know, jumbled and mishmashed. It's not very sort of customer friendly. Is that one of your focuses there, so that people can really find things in designated sections?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you walk in the store, we've got sort of probably a 30-40 foot wall of accessories, which kind of start with the 20s and it builds up. So all the products are in the same place. Same when you look at the costumes, you can kind of shop the eras and it sort of flows as a story, so it makes sense.
I wanted to discuss now about sort of your bricks and mortar shop, because you're in the heart of Yeovil there. Do you find sometimes that the local community support you, or do you find that most of your business is, incoming visitors to the town?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, fortunately for us, we don't really have any competition locally. Um, we'll often get customers coming down from Bristol, maybe as far as sort of Trowbridge, even South Wales, they'll come to us for their bits. If they've got a party planned, they'll quite happily travel. So we do get obviously a lot of, immediate, maybe within sort of a 20-mile radius, but because of where we are and the lack of availability, people will travel, hour and a half to us to get all their bits ready as well. So yeah, it's quite good.
I mean, I'm a great supporter of the high street. I think that we are missing out on good shops in the high street. High streets are looking desolate. And hats off to you for actually still having a bricks and mortar store. But I mean, it comes with difficulties. And I don't think this government realise just how hard it is.
No, it's incredibly hard, and I am a firm believer of, shop the high street. There's far too much people who just go, I'll get it on Amazon. He doesn't need another boat. He doesn't need another plane. We need to be shopping the high streets, keeping them supported, keeping them there, because when we're not there, or if we go, people then are the first to moan, there's nothing on the high street. Well, if people aren't shopping on the high street, there isn't going to be a high street.
But they're not actually doing anything really to help those businesses on the high street, especially the smaller businesses, maybe the coffee shops and everything else, which will always have a turnover, but
Oh,
not for
absolutely. I
you.
mean, Yeovil, the council offer free parking on a Sunday, but in Yeovil, apart from a handful of shops, everywhere's closed. They don't do anything to drive in customers. There's no incentive necessarily come to the high street because you've got to pay for parking, you've got to pay for this. Another main factor is the business rates are going up extortionately this year because the government believe that small businesses don't need the relief anymore. So where I was paying, say, £360 a month, that's going up to nearly £1,000 a month.
That's a massive find for somebody.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And the problem with the government is when we were getting the big relief, every company got it in the retail sector. So the big national chains that make millions and £1 million a month will get the same relief as a small business. When you look at the government, they class a small business as someone who takes under £2 million a year. Well, that's not a small business, or they need to bring in another sort of sector of a micro business, because us independent shops on the high street are absolutely fighting tooth and nail, and yet we get no support, no help.
It's disgusting.
The national chains, yes, they've lost the same savings, but they're still making millions and millions of pounds. And what the government probably should have done was tweaked it so the shops that really need the help and support get it, while the bigger chains that don't necessarily need it don't benefit from it.
Yeah, and that's it. They've just not looked at it properly enough. Or, I actually say this, I think a lot of them haven't even been in business. So they wouldn't know, would they?
Well, that's why when they go, small businesses are under £5 million, that's not a small business. That's a medium large business. It's a chain of companies. A small business is someone that owns one, maybe two shops. Maybe under £500,000 would be a good category. Then the real people that need the help can get the help and support they need.
But one thing you're having to do, and I know this is happening to a lot of businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs, and they're having to diversify a little bit. They're having to change and swap things about, and they're having to really come up and be the brains behind everything. And you've actually diversified as well, and you've had to go online as well as having a physical shop. How has that helped, and what are those challenges that you find?
The challenges are, I mean, the online, we do very well, obviously, for Halloween, but for me, it's finding a way that's cost effective to get the website out there. So, more people know about the website, more people see us, and, you can advertise and get yourself on the front page of Google, but where does the budget for that come from? The likes of the national chains that have millions of pounds to invest in marketing, no problem. And it's trying to find a way to get us seen by more people that's a cost-effective way, especially with all the increases, unlike homes, our gas and electric isn't capped. So we can pay ridiculous prices. We get no protection on that for the prices. Like I said, the rates are going up. Everything's going up and up and up. And I, as a store, can't just put my prices up to compete, because then I'm not, comparable with online.
And I think that's the thing with online as well. You still have the things where you've got to buy the box or the packaging to put it in, and then you've got the delivery cost. None of this comes cheap, and all their prices are going up. So it's really hard, isn't it?
It's tough because, I always get a lot of people go, well, why can't you offer free delivery? And I'm like, well, anywhere that offers free delivery just builds it into the price of the product or the service. Nothing in life is free. Even posting a letter now from Royal Mail, stamps, what stamps have gone up. So, just sending out a small GIF envelope with a costume in, isn't what it used to be 3-4 years ago. The prices have gone up. And I spend hours and hours each week trying to make sure our prices are competitive, and, you can't offer free delivery and be kind of the cheapest on the market, because then you make a loss.
Yeah. It's a tricky situation, isn't it?
It is, because people then go, I just love free delivery.
And they want it like now as well at the same time.
Yeah.
And all that is those extra costs and those extra burdens.
At the Mad Hatter, we've been thrilling partygoers for nearly 40 years. From costumes and horror props to unique accessories, we have everything to bring your creative ideas to life without breaking the budget. Visit our charming horror shop in a 350-year-old property reputed to be haunted. Explore our world and let your imagination run wild. Stop by our Yeovil shop or browse online at madhattersjokeshop.com.
I mean, like you said, you're very seasonal in a lot of respects. But how do you manage all year round? Just putting it frankly, if a business minister is watching this, shame on you. And this is real life, and this is an individual here fighting for a business. So pay attention.
I mean, throughout the year, like VE Day's coming up, so that will help with some, bunting sales. We've already had some people come in for costumes. When there's particular events on, obviously it helps us. So, like some of the national companies will do like their weekend parties. So obviously we're very, very well known for that. But it's, if there's nothing particularly going on, we're just relying on someone coming in. So, I'm always looking to try and find a new product or service we can do, which helps bring in customers that wouldn't necessarily have come in. But it's, it's always hard with the market to try and find something a bit niche that isn't already covered in the local area that you can help bring some more money in with.
But you are, as our team went and visited your shop, they said, and to their own words, what a little treasure trove. They said that they'd never been in a place quite like it. It was quite unique and eye-opening, and they couldn't believe that A, the service that you offered, and B, the amount of products and the passion that you put into your business.
Yeah, I mean, the shop always I describe as like the TARDIS, because you look from the outside and think it's a little shop, but it is massive inside. I have considered trying to cut down to make the shop smaller, but then what range do you sacrifice?
Yeah.
We wouldn't then be the one-stop shop, because if you wanted to come in for 80s, you'd have a much smaller range, so we'd have to cut back. And yeah, we do thrive on offering exceptional customer service. I can't recall the last time we had a problem. We just love making customers happy, customers leaving, their smiles. We get many customers that will then send us photos of their event or their party or them wearing a costume. And it's great to see that, they're out there having fun with something we've bought. And we love to see all those sort of photos and that.
And whilst the government's trying to suck the fun out of business, I hope you are all watching, these ministers, but you put joy into people's lives. And I think that's important, especially in these times at the minute. And as I said, the team went in and they just said they came out feeling full of joy. You must love that when customers come through the door and you see their faces and they're having a laugh and they're having a joke around. That must be good.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. You know, we get so many sort of parents that will come in looking dishevelled, and you know it's their son or daughter's most favourite shop. You know, they've been nagging them all week. I met someone. I did a couple of sort of farm market shows last year, and I met someone in May. Having a chat with them, completely forgot about it. And then she come in, you know, in October and said, "Oh my God, I've had to come in. He's been nagging me since you saw you in May. You know, he's took your card. He's been on the website and he's been nagging me. Can we come?" So, you know, we've come all the way from the far side of Bristol because he's been nagging me every day that I need to go. We need to go. We need to go. It just makes me so happy that, you know, children love it. Adults love it. You know, they come in and go, "You've saved our life. You know, you've got what we need. We can pick it up next day. You know, if we haven't got it, we'll do our best to get it, you know, and we can often get things next day." So, like most people that come in, they've left it to the last minute. So,
Yeah.
some people we can't help, but you know, where we can, we'll bend over backwards to help someone.
And I think that's lovely because you've got the online shop, but like we said, the bricks and mortar you can see. And I would say there's a lot of people who come in and go, "Oh, I didn't know you do that. I saw the things online, but actually now I've seen that." And that's the benefit of a bricks and mortar
Absolutely.
store, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, you know, you can go on our website and you can look at the video of the sort of horror shop. That is, it's an amazing video, but it doesn't beat the experience of, you know, sort of come in late September, October and actually walk through it, you know, experience it. Like I say, we change it around every year. People come as far, you know, we get regulars from sort of Norfolk, Brighton, you know, people will travel hours to come and see us to get the bits. And it's amazing, you know, we'll have 6-year-old girl that her dad carried out screaming last year. And he basically said, "Love, you've been here nearly 2 hours. You've been upstairs a dozen times. I've got to go to work." So she was crying that she had to leave. And then you'll have teenagers coming going, "No, I ain't going up there. It's way too scary." Or, you know, a family will go up and within 30 seconds you hear the dad scream like a teenage girl. It's just so funny.
How funny.
It's hilarious. And then they come down and sort of try and shrug it off and be all manly.
Yeah.
You know, we all heard you up there scream.
And you see, the thing is as well with people is they don't realize how long these things take to plan. You know, you're upstairs with these rooms for Halloween, but you know, Halloween probably finishes. Are you already then on to like looking at next year's stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, to be fair, Halloween will end, we sort of get Christmas out of the way, and really January starts the planning of what we're getting for this year, what theme we're going to do upstairs, you know, what window display we're going to do. We'll obviously look at sort of the planned films that are coming out. So yeah, you know, although putting it together in total is maybe a week's work, the planning is sort of 6 or 7 months because there's just so much stock to bring in, and you know, you want to get it right.
You've got to be on it. And also I would imagine with that type of inventory, you have got to be super organized because with all that amount of stock, if something goes out of stock, you've got to make sure that you get replenishment. You've got to be a super planner.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the trouble is as well, we're just on a normal till, so there is no kind of stock management system yet. So, you know, we are only a small team of 4. But luckily, you know, my team are so experienced in what they do. You know, we keep on top of, so, you know, if it's in stock on the website, I would hand on heart say I'm 99% sure it's in stock to go. You know, we're good at sort of turning it off if we can, or, you know, adding one to the basket to replace it. So it's quite a tough job, and, you know, over Halloween that does fall apart, but you know, it's just trying to stay on top of it and making sure, you know, I mean, 2 years ago at Halloween, our biggest selling costume was Ali G.
Really? I
I
never
mean,
would have thought that.
he's not been on telly for years. Yeah, we must have sold 24 Ali G costumes, and we only had them in getting ready for sort of New Year's parties.
Wow.
But that was probably our biggest seller for Halloween. And if you'd have asked me at the start of the year what's going to be the biggest seller, we were going to go, well, maybe Wednesday, that'd be a big thing or something. I never would have guessed Ali G.
No, that's quite actually a unique one because, I think maybe people now, do you think they're changing Halloween a little bit? Because I know we've got the gory costumes and everything else and the usual ones that everybody knows. But do you think now people are getting more turning into like dress up parties for Halloween?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, last year, Jeffrey Dahmer was quite a big thing for Halloween. If something happens, this year, I suspect Trump will be a bit of a fad for some kind of dress ups. But yeah, it's not so much the traditional Halloween costumes. People are now also thinking, Jeffrey Dahmer or, a few years ago, Jimmy Savile was all the rage because it was a bit weird. And
Yeah, do you know who would be good for Halloween is Keir Starmer, but then that's another different matter. That's a different horror altogether, isn't it?
I wouldn't buy his mask.
No, I wouldn't. So where do you envision the future for Mad Hatter? Where do you see this going? What would you like to see?
I think really the shop is going to just grow and stay as it is. For me, it's getting our name out and the online presence. We've got all our range apart from fireworks we can send out. You can see videos of all the props online, so you can see exactly what you're getting. Our prices are so competitive. But it's just for me, the next sort of year or two is just trying to expand the website so we can bring in more sales from there. People know about us, they know what we sell. That's the plan.
And if you could give any advice to somebody wanting to go into retail specifically, what would you give them?
Do some research. I mean, when I first took over, I was looking at, you look at business bank accounts and nothing's free in life. As much as people say cash is king, it's actually cheaper for me at the moment to take card payments than cash, because what the bank charged me just to bank cash can be more than the card payment. So
That's
actually,
ridiculous.
as much as people say, no, you don't pay card, it's cheap, it's dearer, it's actually not, because then you factor in you've got to take the cash to the bank, so you could get mugged or anything. The charge is the fact the bank will charge you just to bank it. Just do some research, because I found that if you join the Federation of Small Business,
Yeah.
for a small business, it's £200 a year, but the benefits of that are superb. You get kind of free insurance. So if HMRC want to do a full investigation on you, you're covered with that as part of their policy. So that can save you 2,000 or 3,000 in accountants' fees. But they also do offers, so like the Co-op Bank, so you can get a special account with them with reduced rates, so you can pay in more cash a lot cheaper. But also like card machine fees, they've partnered up with a couple of other companies, so rather than just joining WorldPay, if you join it through FSB, you get a big saving on your card payments, the actual fees, also to the processing fees.
That's a big difference for a small business, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, you at the moment you can save, I think I saved 2p on just what it is to authorize it. So rather than paying 4p, I pay 2p, which doesn't sound a lot.
Add it up over a year.
Absolutely. And again, it's things like the actual, processing a debit card fee or a credit card. So credit cards obviously are dearer than that, but when you're saving maybe 0.5% or 1%, again, it doesn't sound a lot.
No.
But if you add it up over the year and say, 200,000, the percentages are a lot.
Yeah, they are.
And those small savings can be the difference between having a good time and making a good profit and, making a loss.
Exactly. If you didn't do this as a job, what would your other dream job be, David? If you could say, oh, I'd love to go in business in something else, what would it be?
If I had sort of unlimited money, my dream would be is to I'd call the company International Rescue. But literally, go into places that are not necessarily war-torn, but there's disasters, or, it could be just in England where there's floods, and you go and help people out, a bit like a charity, but just, just International Rescue is a great name. And whether it's abroad or whatever, you've got a team of people that just, helping out in disasters. That'd be my dream.
Because I can almost sense that you're a bit like an empath. I could see that even like with your customers and everything else, and you're always thinking of others. And I think that's a lovely quality to have actually as an individual. And what, keeps you up and awake at night? What would you say that's the most thing that really is frustrating with your job, or what keeps you awake?
The mad hour at the moment, business rates are going up to nearly £1,000 from 300. Electric's gone up again. The gas is going up. Water's going up.
National insurance and that with employees and everything else.
Well, luckily with that, because I've only got a small team, and they only do like 1-2 days a week.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually affect me, but that's not to say it won't in the future. But just the minimum wage, the government want to help people, and I get that, but they're putting the minimum wage up, and it's a tough one because people have a right to have a living wage, but when it's forced, small businesses, a lot of small businesses won't survive this.
No, they won't.
They're going to have to make them redundant. So where they had a wage, they potentially not got a wage. And whether I've got to do the same, I don't know. But no one's going to run a business, keep staff on, make a loss just because they're paying a wage and the staff are happy. At the end of the day, we're in business to make a profit. So for me, what keeps me awake is the next bill, the bill coming up, the rates are coming up.
But what drives you, I can see, is the passion to help people and those smiles in your shop.
I mean, customers, I just love, I've got many customers that we just have a great bit of banter with. They'll come in and we'll have a chat. The kids that come in with their parents, I saw this last week, or I want that for my birthday. I've seen it online.
That's what keeps you going.
Absolutely. When a customer leaves happy and they come back, or a customer that's not known us before, that's, passing through and seeing us.
Yeah.
And I love, just when they go, oh my God, the size of the shop, I love it. It just makes me so happy.
Well, I'm going to make you happy now, because I'm going to put on one of your props. I'll give the colour hairspray a miss simply because I won't get it out of my hair. But hey, I am the cowgirl around here, I've decided. And so if you want some fantastic products, as I said, our team, it was a struggle getting them out the shop. Support small business, support what they do, and go to places like this, like Mad Hatter, who really care about their customers. You are a person. You're not just any number. You're not just a sale. They're there to make relationships for life. And they will give you an experience, and trust me, it's an experience in your shop, David, and you will find everything you need. So probably forget about those big stores, the ones I'm talking about, the online stores, and go full pelt into David's shop, because you are going to be astounded. All the details are going to be listed below in the description. Go on there, go support small business, and let's keep David's dream going even further, and more smiles on faces. Anyway, this cowgirl's off out of here now.
Thank you.